Hi, I'm Roshan. So today I'm going to talk about task 5 of SRT 210. So let's move on to the first slide, which is about table of index. So today I will be talking about configuration of Samba Server on Linux, file sharing in Samba from Linux to Windows. Then I will talk about fstab. Then I will talk about password, and I will explain some of the tools. So let's move on to the first slide, which is about high level goal, which is configuration of Samba Server on Linux. For that, first we need to install the Samba Server package in Linux. For that, I'm going to use the command dnfy install samba-command. Since I have already installed, it shows complete. So the next step we are going to do is to allow ports 137, 138, 139, 445 in IP tables. For that, we use the command firewall cmd permanent add port equal to 135/TCP. Let me copy paste this to terminal. Already enabled. Since I have already enabled, it will show here. So next, I'm going to do 138 here. 138 port is also enabled. Now I will type 139. Lastly, I'm enabling the port number 445. That's also done. So the next step we are going to do is to start the assembly service. For that, I'm going to type the command systemctl start SMP. Then afterwards, I will enable assembly service. So let's do the step. Systemctl start SMP. It's being started. So the next step we are going to do is to enable SMP service. Systemctl enable SMP. The next step we are going to do is to start NMB service. For that, I'm giving systemctl start NMB. I will enable NMB service also. For that, I'm typing the command enable NMB. Okay, the next step we have to do is to create a group in Samba. For that, I'm going to type group add Samba shared. Since the group is already added, it will show already the group already exists. So after that, I will add a user to this. For that, I will type the command user mode a g samba underscore shared, then the username that you are going to give. Here I'm going to give Roshan, which is my name. A user mode ag, it's being added. So the next step I'm going to do is to give a password to my username for the SMP service. For that, the command is SMP password. Then my username. Okay, here I can type the password, so I'm giving my password. I need to retype my password. Okay, now the password is set successfully. So the next step is to give permissions. For that, first step is to create a directory. Okay, now I'm going to create a directory. Here I am creating a directory Samba, and inside that I am creating a directory called share. Okay, now the directory is being made. So the next step is to give permission to the directory. Here I am giving user and group read, write, and execute permissions, and for others also I am giving read, write, execute permissions. So let's copy the command chmod r. Okay, here I am giving the permission. Now my directory are given permission. So user, group, and others have full permission over the directory. The next step I'm going to do is to change the ownership for that of the directory. For that, I'm going to use this command. Now this step is also done. Now we are going to use the command change configuration. For SC Linux blocks the service of Samba. To change the SC Linux security context of a file, we can use chcon command. This helps in the smooth running of the service. So for that, we are going to use the command chcon. So let's do the command in the terminal. That terminal command is also done. The next step that we are going to do is add these lines. So I have already added these lines, and this is the folder that I have shared folder that I have created. The folder name is SRT120. Okay, the path is specified here is /srb/samba/share. So here guest okay equal to no. So this is writable. So here given yes. So for browsable also it is given yes. So let's see the file /etc. I'm not going to write. This is /samba/smp.conf. Here you can see the lines I have already given. This is my folder name. You can create folders here. To create a new folder, we can give a new folder name here downwards. So now I'm not going to create any more folders. So I'm exiting from this. Okay, now I have exited. Okay, the next step is to check whether it is running properly. We can use the command test palm. So I'm going to type the command test palm test test palm. So here if I press enter, I can see the samba smb.conf file. So the next command I'm going to type is to restart my systemctl services, smb services. For that I'm going to give this command. So the command worked. So here we can see the status systemctl status smb.service. Here it is showing active running, so there are no errors. So from VM2 I'm going to connect to my VM1. For that I'm going to type the command smp client user equal to Roshan and the IP address. So when I press enter, here I could give the IP address of my sample service. So I have given, so here we can see that SRT share name SRT210 type disk. So there are no comments. So that's all from this side. So let's move on to the next part, which is about subtask 1. which is installation of DNSmasq on Linux. For that, first we need to install DNSmasq package. For that, we have to type the command dnfy install DNSmasq. Here I'm going to type the command here. Not typing here. Let me take the VM. I have already installed the DNSmasq here. When I type dnfy install DNSmasq, it shows the installation is already done. The next step that I have to do is to enable DNSmasq. For that, I need to type the command systemctl enable now DNSmasq. After that, I need to start the DNSmasq service. Since I have already done, I'm not doing these steps. It's written in order. So the next step we have to do is to add the port 53 in both in UDP as well as in TCP. So we will write the command firewall cmd permanent hard port equal to 53 slash TCP and firewall cmd permanent hard port equal to 53 slash UDP. So the next step is to edit the DNSmasq.conf file. Here I'm taking the DNSmasq.conf file. Okay, let me try it again. vi slash etc slash, sorry, the VM was wrong. Yeah, let me try the command here. vi slash etc slash DNS mask.conf. So here you can see all lines are commented out. So here we have to add some lines. So the first line we have to add is we have to add the interface file. So here I have added these lines. Restrict DNSmasq lessons on interface, and here I have uncommented the lines interface equal to ENS37, which is my interface name. Then afterwards I have written interface equal to hello. So the next step we are going to do is to restart DNSmasq. For that we are going to type the command systemctl restart DNSmasq. So afterwards we want to edit the file again. For that, in that step we have to add the step add domain name automatically to host name, expand host, then add your own domain name, which is domain equal to samba.seneca, which is the domain name that I have given. So here in the VM you could see here the lines add domain name automatically to host name, expand host. So afterwards we need to edit one more file. File name is etc slash host file. So there we have to add this line 10.0.0.10 space srt210.samba.seneca, which is my domain name, space srt210. So I have already changed that. So after that, restart the DNSmasq server service again and change the DHCP and DHCP list name in the file etc/dnsmasq.conf accordingly. Like here we can see that to type the file again. Here you could see the DHCP range that I have given. Here I have given DHCP range equal to 10.10.0.50, comma 10.10.0.150, then comma 50 hour, which is the least time. So we can give accordingly to the requirements. So the next line I have added is DHCP lease file equal to slash variable slash lib slash DNSmasq slash DNSmasq.leases. So after that, save the file and exit. Okay, to check whether now the steps are open. To check whether it is installed properly, we can test it by the command DNSmasq space test. Here I will run the command DNSmasq minus minus test. Here we can see that syntax check is okay. So let's move on to the next. We have successfully done the installation configuration of DNSmasq. Let's move on to the next subtask, which is file share capabilities. So here in this step, we are going to share the folder in Linux to Windows. For that, I'm going to power on my Windows. Then I'm powering off my VM and powering on my Windows VM. This takes a little bit time. Actually, in the first steps subtask, we had done the installation of Samba Server. So using Samba Server, we are going to share the file, shared folder. To do it in Windows, we need to allow SMB service in Windows. So I will explain the steps to enable SMB service. So let's wait till the Windows starts up. This takes a little bit time. Okay, the first step we are doing is first click on Start button, then select Control Panel. Okay, now Windows is powered on. So first step, click on Start button. Then I'm going to select Control Panel. Okay, here click on Programs. Then click on Turn Windows feature on or off. Then click on check for SMP. So here I have seen SMP and expand the SMP here. Then click on smb1.0 CIFS client. So I have already enabled it. So I'm clicking OK. So after that, I'm closing this file. Let me take my Windows. Here in this PC, I'm going to click add a network location. So here I'm going to give next. Here I'm going to give the IP address of my VM where I have done installed Samba service. So I'm clicking next. This takes a little bit time. Okay, here I need to give the username and password. So my username was Roshan. So I'm going to give the password here. Okay. So here it will ask like type a name for this network location. We can give any name. So I'm proceeding. Yeah, finish. So here I could see two files, I and Roshan, which was on my VM1. So let's check that. For that, I'm going to check the file. So here the path is written here for SRT120. So I'm going to type cd slash srv slash samba slash shared. Now currently I'm in my shared folder. So I'm going to type ls to see my files in there. So here we can see that hi and Roshan is there. So we are done with this part. Let's move on to the next slide. These steps I have explained. So we are going to talk about fstab. The configuration file /etc/fstab contains the necessary information to automate the process of mounting partitions. In a nutshell, mounting is the process where a row partition is prepared for access and assigned a location on the file system tree. So in general, fstab is used for internal devices, CD, DVD devices, and network shares. Removable devices such as flash drives can be added to fstab but are typically mounted by Genome Volume Manager and beyond the scope of this document. Options for mount and fstab are similar. So partitions listed in fstab can be configured to automatically mount during the boot process. So if a device or partition is not listed in fstab, only root may mount the device or partition. So users may mount a device or partition if the device is in fstab with the proper option. So let's see the file here. I'm going to type cat slash etc slash fstab. Here we can see the contents inside the file fstab. So let's move on to the next slide where I will talk about password file. So /etc password file stores essential information which required during login. So this file is very important file which stores all our passwords. So in other words, it stores user account information. The /etc password is a plain text file. It contains a list of systems accounts giving for each account some useful information like user ID, group ID, home directory, shell, and more. The /etc password file should have generated read permission as many command utilities use it to map user IDs to usernames. However, write access to /etc password must only limit for super user account. So let's check /etc password file. Okay, here I'm checking. Cat /etc password. Here you can see all my usernames and passwords are there. It is written Roshan, my group, and the password, and contain all information. So this is very important file. So let's move on to the next topic. So I will talk about Samba tools. So with the help of Samba tool interface, you can directly manage domain users and groups, domain group policy, domain sites, DNS services, domain replication, and other critical domain functions. To review the entire functionality of Samba tool, just type the command with root privileges without any option or parameter. So the next tool is mount. Mount we have discussed in previous slides also. Mount command is used to mount the file system found on a device to a big tree structure. So another command unmount can be used to detach these devices from the tree. Mount is used to attach one file to another file. So this command tells the kernel to attach the file system found at the device to the directory. So let's move on to the next slide, which is Get-SmbConnection. The Get-SmbConnection command retrieves the connection established from the server message block client to the SMB servers. Users can connect to the SMB share using credentials different than the associated login credentials. So there will be a connection listed per share per user logon per credential use. So this command we can use in PowerShell in Windows to connect to SMB. So the next command tool is New-PSDrive. So the command creates temporary and persistent drives that are marked to or associated with a location in data store such as network drive, a directory on the local computer, or a registry key, and persistent Windows mapped network drives that are associated with a file system location on a remote computer. So this command basically creates temporary and persistent drives. So let's check this command on PowerShell. The command was New-PSDrive. So here we can give the name to specify give the drive. So let's go on to the next slide, which is net. The net use command is a command prompt command that's used to connect to remove and configure connections to shared resources like map drives and network printers. The net use command is one of many net commands like netsend, nettime, netuser, and netview, etc. So in command prompt, if we type net, we can see all the net commands like net accounts, net computer, netconf, net continue, file group. All informations are given here. If we type net user, it will give the current user Roshan. So administrator default account, then two accounts are there, guest account are there. So it will give the information about the user here. So let's move on to the next tool, which is Test-NetConnection. The Test-NetConnection commandlet displays diagnostic information for a connection. It's about ping test, TCP test, route tracing, and route selection diagnostics. Depending on the input parameters, the output can include the DNS lookup results, a list of IP interfaces, IPsec rules, router source addresses, selection results, and a configuration of confirmation of connection establishment. So this basically gives the diagnostic information for a connection. So let's test the command here. Test-NetConnection. Waiting for the code reply. Here we can see the interface alias Ethernet 0. The remote address is 13.10.4.52. Source address is 192.168.5.129. The time, the round trip time taken is 28 ms millisecond. So all details are given here. Let's move on to the next slide. For the next tool, Get-NetTCPConnection. The Get-NetTCPConnection command line gets current TCP connections. Use these commands to view TCP connection properties such as local or remote IP addresses, local or remote port, and connection state. So with this command we can check the current TCP connections in the system. So I'm going to type that command. Get TCP net TCP connection. So here we can see all the TCP connections here displayed. So the next tool is Get-NetIPConfiguration. The Get-NetIPConfiguration command line gets network configuration including usable interfaces, IP addresses, and DNS servers. If you do not specify any parameters, this command line gets IP configuration properties for all non-virtual connected interfaces on a computer. So this will give the network configuration including the interface, the IP address, and DNS. So let's check this command. Get-NetIPConfiguration. Configuration. So here we can see the interface. The interface index is 11. So IPv4 address is given here. Then the default gateway and DNS server as explained. So the next slide is Disable-NetAdapter. The Disable-NetAdapter command disables a network adapter. Network adapter must be enabled to connect to a network. So this basically is used to disable a network adapter. So here I am connected to Ethernet 0 as described here. So if I type the command disable network adapter, we can give the name which network adapter I have to disable. So I'm not disabling since it will cause problems for my connection. So the next command is enable network adapter. So here we can enable network adapter if you are not having, if you are having two or more adapters and if you don't have any network connection, you can enable different adapters here. So I'm not going much into the topic. So the next command is invoke command. The invoke command runs commands on a local or remote computer and it returns all output from the commands, including errors. Using a single invoke command you can run commands on multiple computers. This can be run on a local remote computer and return all output from the commands, including errors. So let's try the command. Here we need to give like script block we have to specify. So that's all from the slide. So